Panelimizin başlığı Liderler Yuvarlak Masası, Büyüme, Dayanıklılık ve Gelecek. Evet, moderatörümüz Sayın Nadir Alparslan. Nasılsınız? Hoş geldiniz. Ne güzel tekrar sizi burada görmek efendim. Buyurunuz, nasıl rahat edecekseniz orada ağırlayalım sizi. Sayın Nadir Alparslan, Bakan Yardımcımız, Türkiye Cumhuriyeti Kültür ve Turizm Bakanlığı Bakan Yardımcısı buradalar. Kendileri modere edecekler bu önemli paneli ve kendisine eşlik etmek üzere Alessandra Priante, İtalyan Ulusal Turizm Ofisi Başkanı. Hoş geldiniz. Welcome to the stage. Maribel Rodriguez, Uluslararası Turizm Danışmanı. Maribel Rodriguez. Ve Sinan, Seha, Türkseven, TGA Genel Müdürü.
Hello.
Sinan, Seha, Türkseven.
Hello, Alessandra, Priante, lovely
Hi,
meeting
Sinan.
you.
How are you? I'm gonna put my glasses.
Evet, diğer konuşmacımızı
¿Quién habla? ¿Quién más está?
bekliyoruz. Burada kendileri. Tabii hep böyle oluyor Sayın Bakanım, biliyorsunuz. Ne zaman bir açılış konuşması bitse sahnede ağırladıklarımızı uğurlarken, saygıyla veda ederken kendilerine buradaki panelimizin başlangıcı zaman zaman.
Vale.
Buyurunuz efendim, hoş geldiniz.
Sizi WTTC odasına. Evet.
Bakan görüşmesine katılacakmış.
A lo mejor están en
Öyle
la
mi?
lista.
Peki, öyleyse bir değişiklik söz konusu. Siz efendim bakan yardımcıları her zaman buradasınız. Siz her zaman bizimlesiniz. Şöyle bir değişiklik oldu. Sayın Bakanımız B2B görüşmelerde önemli görüşmelere giriş yapıyor şu an itibariyle. Onun için Sinan, Seha, Türkseven bu önemli panelin moderasyonu görevini devraldı. Sayın Bakan Yardımcımız da B2B görüşmelerde Sayın Bakanımıza eşlik edecekler. Tekrar teşekkür ediyoruz. The stage is yours.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. So Miss Oylum explained though, just a quick note before we begin. Due to last minute change, I'll be stepping in as the moderator of this session today. Indeed, I was supposed to be again sitting in this chair, but I was a little bit more comfortable. I was prepared. So consider it a live demonstration of adaptability for myself, and thank you for understanding in advance. I'll do my best to keep us on time, on topic, and hopefully make this an engaging conversation for everyone. So let's get started. Indeed, as tourism boards, investors, public or global institutions, we're continuously challenged with similar questions continuously, everywhere, every time. How do we grow without breaking what makes destinations unique? How do we remain resilient in a world of constant shocks? And how do we design the future, not react to it? These are exactly the questions we will explore today as we discuss growth, resilience, and future. And I am delighted to be with two global leaders. Our first panelist, Maria Isabel Rodriguez Gamero. Am I right to pronounce?
Maribel, that's fine.
So Maribel, can I call
Yes,
it like
yeah.
that? Okay, thank you. She's a global tourism leader with deep experience across aviation, hospitality and international tourism governance. She has held senior leadership roles at the World Travel and Tourism Council, where she led the expansion across Asia, the Middle East and Latin America, and has played an important role in shaping aviation in Europe with companies such as British Airways, EasyJet and Ryanair. Today she also leads Women Leading Tourism and is a strong voice for innovation, investment and leadership transformation in our sector. And our second panelist, Alessandra Priante, is the president of ENIT, the Italian Tourism Board, and maybe one of the most respected figures in Europe in global tourism policy and diplomacy. She previously served as Director for Europe at UN Tourism, managing the world's largest tourism region and guiding the sector through the pandemic at the global level. With a background in economics, diplomacy and cultural policy, Alessandra brings a unique perspective on how public strategy, resilience and international cooperation shape tourism's future. So, a long introduction. Again, thank you for understanding, bear with me. And I start. Okay. Alessandra, and I will ask the same question to both of you. The first question. We all, the stakeholders in the tourism value chain, often talk about growth. But we also know that all growth is not good growth. I mean, from my perspective, growth of revenue for the industry stakeholders sometimes does not translate into meaningful impact on local communities. So there are checks and balances in every growth momentum. From your perspective, what defines healthy tourism growth today?
Well, first of all, allow me to just add one small biographical note to the presentation, that me and Maribel are longtime friends. And I think this is very important to remind us that tourism is also an industry of friendship, which is not very common when it comes to the private sector. And allow me please to thank TIF for having me once again, TTYD, thank you, Oya, for having me for the third time here in this fantastic event. Let me answer to you by, Oya, with your permission, I would like to be my usual sort of, breaking rules type of person, speaking a little bit outside the box. So I think when we speak in conferences, we have to bring value. And I think we need to have a reason for these people to come back from the coffee break. So what I'm saying is that now tourism is undergoing a very deep, profound paradigm shift. It is not anymore where we go, it's why we go. And why this matter, to answer your question. Because when we look at growth from the tourism offer side, I consider travel and tourism and everybody, all of us that work in actually transforming what nature gave us into an outlet to receive, whether it's a vector for connectivity, whether it's a location for hospitality. We're the ones who operate, who basically make you feel that everything is natural, but in reality there's a lot of preparation behind it. But when we think of growth within this paradigm shift, we have to switch the metrics. All of you have begun your speeches referring to quantities. The UN Tourism talk about X% of growth every year. Now I'm going to ask you, does this really matter? Does quantity at this point in time really matter? And my personal answer is not anymore. Because if we also think about it, like especially the UN Tourism data, which by the way I can tell you from having worked with it, they are a sum up of all our data which we send them. So they basically mirror what we give them, all right? So there is a continuous growth. Now, what is the growth about? The growth is the number of people circulating, but at what price? First of all, is it real? But how are we actually evaluating growth based on that? Because in reality, what we see, I was just reading on the plane coming here of news about Japan. There's a destination in Japan which is now closing borders because they cannot take it anymore, because communities are fed up with the quantity, with the overflows of tourism reaching one destination. Now, some of you, especially working in the hospitality sector, might look at me with a strange eye and say, what are you talking about? I need to fill up my hotel. I need to reach my 98%. I need to sell my tickets. So of course quantity matters. But reality is that we're not living in a time where that quantity has to have meaning, where the why people travel needs to be a main point with the people traveling. So To explain you better, I was talking to my students. I made the big mistakes of calling them millennials. They all reminded me they're born after 2000. So I'm like, okay, Gen Z people, sorry. And I asked one of them, and I do that on a regular basis, if you had to go on holiday tomorrow, what would you do? What would be your first actions? And the answer was, I would sit down and ask ChatGPT. But then what would you ask? That I want ChatGPT to advise me a place where I can go and relax. So once again, the why comes before the where. And this is undeniable. We're not going to choose a destination because it's a destination. We're going to choose what we want to do, and then someone or ourselves, we're going to remember that, hey, if I want to do that, maybe I should go there. The Taylor Swift economy tells us that people travel because they want to go and see Taylor Swift. Where's Taylor Swift playing? Let me try Albania, I've never been. There's no conscious choice of, I want to go and visit Albania because Albania, the cultural heritage UNESCO sites. I'm so sorry, I'm just, of course, picking up an example. I'm so sorry from breaking anybody's dreams, but this is the harsh reality.
Alessandra, you have to go where Bad Bunny goes.
Okay, definitely. So that means I'll finally visit Puerto Rico. I have a lot of Puerto Rican friends who invited me there. So what I'm saying is that because of the paradigm shift, now we have an obligation as tourism operators or tourism investors to look at growth in a different manner. How do we offer our tourists the purpose, the why? And how do we make that why a vertical container of a lot of elements? All that the ministers were mentioning, gastronomy, culture, experiences, values, authenticity, uniqueness, personalized, something that is made just for me. So the challenge now is different because we want to keep these quantities happy and stable. We don't necessarily want to increase the number. We don't need a wish-washy change every year. We need repeating guests. We need people that appreciate us for what we do and give us that stability. And this is furthermore important for those destinations that are emerging now that, as Gloria showed us, are coming from Africa or from other areas of the world.
We have to go from, and thank you, Oya, she's leaving, TIF for organizing. And talking about destination actually is what we should be talking, because destinations are now at the center. You cannot work without, putting the destination management in a position where all the stakeholders are working with them around. Before we used to do promotions, now it's more than that. It's having this long-term vision to be able to go from volume to value. And the destinations are really now much more important when it comes to the governance, and the governance that is all around that, to take decisions together that are going to help the citizens to be happy with their tourists. The tourists very happy when they go to the destination. The private sector to be really involved and doing the things that are needed, that are not creating overcrowding or to tackle the digital experience that you need to have before you come. And there is as well a very important part that the destination needs to do is to make sure that there is investment, and not only in the attraction, but as well in the structures. Are you investing in your, in your own city? Are you putting money to maintenance? Are you putting the right water systems to cope with so many people? So you have to really have a good governance to align every single stakeholder. And what do we want to quantify? What is the new rule that we are going to be using? Satisfaction, happiness of the citizens, or the number of people coming? And what is the impact that the tourist is bringing to the society? Because we are listening more and more that people are very unhappy, and the citizens are complaining. Do they know how much do they have because they are part of a destination? So we need to make sure as well that we have a proper narrative to describe what we as a sector are offering to every single stakeholder. And then the measures we need to decide, we need to change. You were saying a change in paradigm, as well the LTTC was saying from volume to value. It's probably time now to define another ways of calculating this impact.
Exactly. I agree with you both. I mean, as you suggest, Alessandra, sometimes at certain contexts, we have to talk about numbers. Numbers does matter. But I fully agree with you. For instance, I do not usually, announce it publicly at all, but I usually look at the number of repetitive customers and the satisfaction of the visitors. We are investing in lots of surveys in at the borders. What are their pain points, etc. So we usually have to deep dive into that, because at the end of the day, we are in the business of making people happy. So we are trying to realize their dreams. They have a purpose to come to visit to your destination, as you suggest. And the important metric for a future growth is obviously to see whether that destination satisfies the needs and the expectations of the guests, the visitors. I agree with you on that. To Maribel, another question, different question. You've driven expansion across aviation, hospitality, and global work with various global tourism institutions. Where do you see the most attractive investment opportunities today? Not only geographically, but that's also part of the question, but also structurally. Are the investors investing in the right geographies or right sectors in the whole value chain?
What we are seeing now is these two things, right? In a way, investors are looking to create destinations, to build new products, to create new experiences, include mixed use, going to tier 2, tier 3 destinations. Like, for example, in the case of Saudi Arabia, they're really creating a new destination, but not only the typical cities, it's all around the country, and they're investing heavily on making this happen. But at the same time, there are countries like, for example, Spain, Portugal, France, where you have to maintain the current infrastructure. So you have to really balance. And in some cases, there are some gaps there. You think that, so that's why you need to really have this like super long term. Another gap as well in investment, not geographically, neither structure, is about talent. How do we convince and generate talent? How do we make people to be in love with our sector so they want to work with us? So we have an amazing workforce that is going to be happy to be part of our ecosystem, but at the same time are going to deliver a proper job. Because actually, we don't need only people that are working or are studying tourism, which of course we do, but we need people that know about maths, architecture, we need scientifics, we need people experiencing digital. We really need to make sure that we are as well addressing this gap, and that is as well investment. Investment is all about putting mixed use or creating things. It's about to keeping alive and positioning, because at the end of the day, things are changing. And you have to be diversified. Now we are seeing the experience of the wellness, retreats, we are seeing, the regenerative, so we are seeing totally different things that we used to, how we used to be in the past, and thinking this long term, having a good governance and alignment is really important.
Do you think there is an overfunding or an underestimate?
Never is overfunding.
Never over, always.
I wouldn't say so. I can ask no. I don't think so. It's very important. It actually, more and more, the big funds are focusing in our sector, which is like amazing. It really says that how important is travel and tourism industry, 11% of the global GDP in the next few years, and so many million and trillion of dollars related to our sector. Of course, more and more we are generating the interest of the funds and where the money should be sitting. So it's really good. There is never an overfunding.
Alessandra, you were at the center of Europe's tourism response. It seems like a century ago, but only a couple of years ago. I refer to the response
to pandemic.
To the pandemic. Looking back, What did COVID reveal as the biggest structural vulnerability of the whole industry? But the second question, I will ask it together, is much more important. Do you think have we truly fixed that vulnerability, or I mean just moved on and life goes on?
I'm gonna start with the second question. I'm gonna say once again bluntly, no, we didn't fix it. I think the biggest vulnerability, I mean, many positive things erupted from pandemic. The main thing being that people realized, ooh, tourism is important, really. So, because we went from 100 to 0 in 2 seconds, but tourism is also the most elastic economic sector, so it was able to rebound. I mean, we're talking now in, let's say, 4 years, maybe 3 years after the big thing, but in reality, technically, we're 1.5 years into it, and we're talking normal, as if, and Gloria was even mentioning today, which I fully agree, Italy is the same. Italy had a record year in 2025. Incredible, amazing. So what vulnerability did it reveal? That we took a lot of things for granted, including tourism. We were taken for granted. We'd like the good old wife of 20 years, that the moment that she snaps and she leaves, the husband's like, ooh, oh my God, and who's gonna do this and who's gonna do that? Same thing happened with tourism. Tourism disappeared and people realized, oh my God, there's no tourism. So we had a lot of hotels shutting down. In Roma, still, many didn't reopen. But look at the other side of the coin. Now we have the highest concentration of 5-star luxury hotels in Rome ever being built. So Rome is becoming a luxury destination, not just the, let's say, destination that everyone needs to go to, however, whenever, even if it's today, hop on a bus, you know. Rome is positioning itself as a luxury destination. So there was a very big change in that. When I say why we didn't learn, because I still think we did not interiorize how impactful tourism can be and how better we must work together. One of the reasons people ask me, why did Italy do so well in the last 2 years? My funny answer is always, well, because I became the president of the Italian Tourism Board. But in reality, it's because people in Italy woke up to the fact, because they lost jobs and a lot of stuff, that either they work together well, and I'm talking as well different levels of administration. We're very well known for having one of the most prolific bureaucracies in the world. Andrea here can probably come to me. We have regions, provinces, municipalities, associations. We have the public sector is spread in authorities, right? So the worst and most difficult thing was making them talk together and making them talk to the private sector. So I think we've achieved that. I think that has gotten better because of necessity. But the one thing we didn't learn is that we really need to take the sector seriously, very seriously, especially us mature markets, especially, I mean, Spain doesn't count.
People, I say, I'm not mature.
Well, Spain doesn't count because Spain always does it better. But, you know, like Italy, France, Germany, we need to really interiorize the reason why we're successful. And let me come to you, Maribel. What you said to me is crucial, is, you know, forging the new talents. She said it right. It's not just about sending them to tourism school. It's about encompassing a sector which needs to be considered a proper industry. That is a completely different look. It's not a service sector, it's an industry, just like weaponry, like pharmaceutical, like shipbuilding or airlines. We are an industry. And in order for that to be an industry, all these people that we want to bring in, they need to have jobs. So when we're training students, the reason why, for example, I have 8 students in the highest level master in tourism management that we have in Italy, 8, is because they think that they're not going to have a job afterwards. So they don't do the master, they don't invest because they don't think they're going to have a job afterwards. So we need to work harder and stronger, public-private, to make sure that we give hope for future generations because they really love tourism. And you were giving them an opportunity to work in their own country, not going abroad, not, traveling, and to do the best for the country. And we have a great generation of kids. They're fantastic. They're much better than us. We were rebels. We were not listening to anyone. We were going straight for what we wanted. We were, skipping school to go to concerts. So we have a great generation ahead of us. It's our children. So we need to give them the trust, but also the stability that they want. So this is something where tourism really needs to grow.
But you were talking about resilience and if we learn from COVID, and what I would like is to think about something. Okay, it's not that if we are gonna face another situation like COVID, it's when, and really being prepared for that. And there are many examples, not only COVID, because it's boring already, COVID. I think there is, sorry about that, but for example, going back to credit crunch or any other of the 2011, I mean, many of the crises that our sector has faced, what did we do well? What we did bad? What could we learn? For example, in the case of Spain, before the credit crunch and the immobiliar bubble in the country, Barcelona was like, and when this situation happened, Barcelona was doing very well, no problem. Why? Because they have 80% international, 20% national. Spain was pretty much depending on the nationals, and because the nationals were in trouble, okay, very easy, nobody's traveling, so the prices were down, and it was a disaster. What Madrid did, it was, okay, now let's diversify, let's look for our new markets, let's don't put all the eggs in the same bucket, no, when it comes to like selection, who do I want to bring? And in the second big crisis, which is COVID, like in Rome, they used the opportunity to refurbish, to maintain, to bring new hotels, to bring new 5-star, but to position themselves in another level, which make it now to be one of the most successful cities in the world when it comes to competitiveness. So let's use those bad things as an opportunity, but as well look back, because we have done that many times, and we have always probably failed. But if you look to the examples, actually WTTC, when I was in WTTC, we did a study to 80 crises. We analyzed, they were coming from natural disasters or political instability,
Sure.
many. And in each of them, it was a very good case that you could then share and learn from it. Anything is similar to the other because it depends where you are, of course, but you can use this like a model and an example to improve or at least not fail.
I fully agree with you. I mean, we have to have our playbooks always, in the drawer, because, you talked about Italy, you talked about Spain, and I have to talk about Turkey maybe at this point, because it's not only the pandemics, as you say. There are lots of crises, different than, Italy and Spain. I love my neighbors, but the geographical location of my country. So there are lots of political conflicts, wars, and sometimes unfortunate events like earthquakes, fires. We similarly face. Those are unfortunately the facts of life, and they will never end. They will never stop. So, exactly.
Risk averse. There are, if you go to China or you want to attract people from North America, they are risk averse. So you need to explain what is happening. It's not happening here, but it's happening. There is just 1,000 kilometers. You need to make sure that, you are not caught by a problem, and then suddenly you are going to be losing all those tourists that Alessandra was mentioning, that suddenly they were not there anymore, and everybody realized, oh, where are the tourists, right? They give a lot of money, a lot of value. We need them.
And you just said, the alignment between the public and private sector a couple of minutes ago. It's obvious that, that's the key to success. Because,
of course.
Every country
Yes.
has different administrative and political structures, but as far as I see at this age, every country is complex. So that alignment is crucial. Where do you still see the biggest disconnect, the gap? And what can be done to close that gap? in the
Right.
alignment of public and private
I'm
sector.
loving this conversation because we're only talking about the things that don't work, which is, I love it, because it's very easy to maybe to talk about the ones that do work. Let me tell you one thing. I think we mentioned, I mean, for me, the biggest gap is still this sort of way through in training workforce and letting it come to the sector. So I don't know whether the solution is to enhance the level of the sector, enhance the perception, work better with the public-private and give better jobs or pay rises. I don't know. I don't know. If there's only probably not one, it should be all of it. All I know is that this is a sector of people for people. So if we're missing people out of the equation, we're making a huge mistake. But believe it or not, one of the key elements right now, we're talking, I don't know if you, like semantics have completely changed. No, we don't talk about branding, marketing, promotion videos. We talk about redesigning. We talk about, and we're talking about communities. So people are realizing that objectifying a destination doesn't serve the long term. One of my friends, one of my newest friends, gave me a very good reading about Roma. And she said, I came to your country, it was amazing, I came with a bunch of friends. When I arrived, imagine, the taxi driver, female taxi driver, gave us candies.
She's there.
Is this a service? No. Is this something that you plan as part of the ticket that you buy? No. It's something completely spontaneous, it's free, it's authentic, it's true. What I love about tourism is not only that it's the most human economic sector, but it's also the most sincere economic sector. Turkey, you cannot lie. If you say you're investing in your gastronomy, I'm seeing it. I had one of the best breakfasts. Yesterday we had an amazing dinner. So if you're saying that you're investing in gastronomy and you're giving me KFC, no, I'm not going to come back. And I'm going to think you're a liar. So I'm not going to trust you if you want to give me a message. So my answer to your question is, the gap is still in believing in ourselves as the only really changing force for the future. We have normalized conflict. In tourism, Maribel quoted 80 crises. We're sort of used to it. We're like, yeah, we had a volcano eruption, and then we had the economic crisis, but hey, we're still here alive and kicking and booming. We're taking it for granted that we're elastic. And it's an absolute given, and I think it's great. But I think now the gap is that we must understand, we must embed beyond politics. And I'm talking especially to the private sector, you must champion the role that you have in changing this world. If there's one chance of peace, it's maintaining tourism alive. Because tourism allows us to have this dialogue, to understand each other, to meet somebody from a different culture who doesn't even speak our language, that just relates to us heart to heart. And this is the most powerful of all tools. And thank you for mentioning Bad Bunny. He actually said it, because the most disruptive things you can do to fight hate is love. So tourism is all about love. And so now the gap is we have to believe in ourselves that we can do it. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm still sleepless because I watched the game and the show.
Very nice.
I mean,
It was nice, wasn't it?
the game was, not nice. Defensively good, but of course I was watching the game
halftime.
for the halftime show.
Of course.
To be frank, I think it was one of the best ones in the last decade, maybe the first one, with regards to the message it provided.
Absolutely.
That's the important thing.
But tourism is
It's
that.
inspiring. Exactly.
Tourism is exactly that. For example, sorry, just to add one thing, I'm proudly carrying the Winter Olympics symbol. Just a few days ago, we've inaugurated the Winter Olympics. There's nothing more powerful than the message that comes from the Olympics. It's sports, is every country together that competes on something beautiful And we're so proud that we're hosting it in Milano and in Cortina as the first spread Olympics. I think this, Maribel, makes a change. I'm very interested in hearing your opinion about it. We, for the first time, like Americans were complaining. They were saying, ooh, but Cortina is not around the corner from Milano. Who said it was? Google Maps comes from your own country, so check it out. We are taking you on a journey in Italy. It's the 2 most visited regions in the world who are receiving an incredible amount of tourists who are coming with the excuse of the big events, the mega events like NFL, like, you know, the Super Bowl. They're coming for that reason, and then they're discovering something different, something new, and we're really hoping it's going to bring a long-lasting legacy.
But to contribute to what you are saying, which 100% align, and being always from the private sector side, of course, private sector needs to champion, but we need less bureaucracy, more facilitation. It's not all about doing the work alone. You know, we need to work together. And I would like to have some sort of accountability. You know, what are the things that are going to be doing each of us? Like a KPI long term that we all work together. We can have many meetings, and, you know, constantly talking about how beautiful and powerful is our sector. But we need to be a little bit more concrete, and we need to have some KPIs that are going to be, you know, achieved. And what I would recommend as well, and that is totally separate, is the destinations like Turkey, Italy, Spain, you name it, DNA. You know, don't lose your essence. When our friend Galias, he was going to Rome, and this person gave a candy, and she was amazed for that. This is what actually motivates everybody to travel and to go places, to feel what you want to feel. You cannot standardize. You cannot be. You have to be different, because that is what is going to be keeping you, you know, competitive, but at the same time interesting. Otherwise, you can go to any place in the world which is going to be the same Starbucks. And sorry about the Starbucks. I like the coffee. But, you know, you need to really make sure that your DNA are not lost. It's not lost.
One personal question. I mean, you lead Women Leading Tourism, and recently launched, I didn't know this, the W8 network.
Yeah.
And I think it represents more than half of Spain's GDP.
Yeah, 56%
Wow.
of the Spanish GDP. And probably global as well.
How did, I mean, that diversity in that leadership?
It is very important because, like we were discussing that before, it's not all about, you know, having only women, only men, or, you know, no. It's about having a diversified workforce that is going to be bringing new things, culture. And it's studied. When you have a diverse group, the rentability is bigger. It's normal because you have different point of view and visibility. We created this network just to help each other and not to be here seated waiting for someone to help us. No, we are very powerful women. And it's something that we created to work with men, with our colleagues. We are totally inclusive. It's not about we and you. No, it's about being together. And the KPIs are the same KPIs for you and for me. You know, it's like working together to have more women interested to be having leadership positions. And we went beyond tourism, and we talked to the other industries, legal, finance, banking, which were, some of them, they were more sophisticated. It accounts for over 56%. And we have a common goals together. Yeah, I think it's really good, and it's a big network, and I encourage everyone, men and women, to be part of any other of those networks as well.
Alessandra, I mean, having worked across diplomacy, culture, and tourism policy, how do you see national tourism boards will have to evolve in the next decade?
That's an excellent question. I mean, tourism boards, Maribel said it in the beginning, it's not anymore about promoting. I honestly, when people ask me, you know, how do you feel about your job? I said, I probably have the easiest job in the world. I have to tell people to come to Italy. Now my question is, do I have to tell you to come to Italy? I mean, you're going to come to Italy anyways, right? So I have to give you the why, right? So tourism boards, first of all, at the moment, they have a very diverse governance. In some countries is a mix, public-private. Some countries like mine is a direct emanation of the government. So we are the in-house company of the Ministry of Tourism. But then a new government is going to come, is going to shuffle things around, change management, do things. So what we need as tourism boards, I think we need to have a little bit more stability in our governance, definitely, to have very clear objectives. So are we in to bring visitors, or are we in to steer the strategy and the vision to make sure that our real destinations, so the single destinations are, keep their DNA preserved, continue generating. So the way that I interpreted my mandate was very simple. I'm not, again, I don't need to promote the main points of attraction. I'm here to promote the lesser known destinations. I'm here to teach, believe it or not, product development to destinations. I would have airlines coming to me and telling me, we have opened flights onto secondary airports, which is what you advocate for, but they're just not working. So I asked the airline, why didn't you come to me first before opening? I would have addressed you with great passion towards the destinations that were actually ready to receive you. In other words, we are all potentially a tourism destination, but we need to make sure we become one. So what I do is I try to work with destinations themselves and help them understand, so that's why I call it product development, help them understand what they can offer. I mean, we're fine bringing people to somewhere, but if there's no hotel, no restaurants, nothing to do, and people are just not trained, you're just gonna, shoot in the water. So you need to have something that works, and then you build the network. So I work with them, and the other thing that I do is I try to establish the feedback to make sure that we travel responsibly, because many of our destinations, I guess, like many other destinations in the world, suffer from the same thing, which is a little bit, I don't want to call it the word that I don't like, which starts with an over, but because I don't believe in over-tourism.
There are some places which are under as well.
Over-tourism, to me, doesn't exist. It's just bad management. It's like, I'm letting people come, that doesn't matter how many, doing what, I don't care. So that, a conscious approach to that is needed. So I try to make sure that we all have this responsible approach. Do I have a new campaign? No, I don't. Do I believe that we need to have a new campaign? Maybe. Not so much. Do I believe that we need to work stronger with AI? Yes, indeed. Because of where people are finding their information. So I prefer to be a bit more sort of detailed and personalized, because travel is going to be more and more personalized. So the type of travelers that I want that come to my country are the ones that do certain things. So I want to make sure I'm talking to those engines, to those feeds, and I'm also making sure that, as you mentioned very correctly for yourself, that I keep that human connection with the tourist. Because for how much I believe in social media and everything else, and they're a fundamental part of our promotional strategy, there's nothing more powerful than honest feedback and honest word of mouth. The word that Galia is going to give back to her Saudi friends when she goes back, to say how friendly Rome was, is more powerful than any marketing campaign that I would pay to Saudi. But did I make that happen? No, I didn't. So I just need to make sure that the conditions for which that happens still exist. Maribel mentioned keeping the DNA. Indeed, we are hospitable, people. Italians are known to be hospitable. Let's keep it that way, because nobody wants to come to an angry Rome, which is, by the way, the Rome that I know. So I prefer that. People feel like that about my country, because this is what's going to make people return and think of my country as the most desired country in the world. Sorry, Maribel.
No problem. I like it as well.
I needed to rub it in. Sorry.
I like every country.
I was just trying to look for a quotation from you. There's no overcrowding, it's bad management. I had chat in Abu Dhabi last
Yes.
year. So my friend said, recorded the panel. I had cut that part because there are always coming questions to me. Overcrowding. I always show that mini clip of yours.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for that.
I mean, copyrights, etc. But I'll do that after.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Honored.
And what would be your answer?
Well, when it comes to the overcrowding word, I don't like it, but we need to face it exists. And how do we
Indeed.
manage and how do we do destination stewardship to make it, people come? Because one thing you need to understand is that everybody wants to go to Paris and to see the Eiffel Tower. Everybody wants to go to Barcelona to see the Sagrada Familia. Everybody, of course, you have to do that, okay? But you need to help them to go to somewhere else. You are telling you are not going to be doing a campaign, which I agree that is more tailor-made, personalized, but you need to show them that there are other parts of Italy that they can go.
Not me. The regions are doing it by themselves.
Because
We're
that
just facilitating them.
it's a budget thing probably. But you need to open the opportunities to others to know what else is there, attracting to a place, but making them then leave and go and repeat. Because as well, when you have a repeat client, it's easier to bring them back than to catch a new one, and you know how costly that it is. If you have consumers that go, tourists that go every year to Italy, to Tuscany, to Liguria, you can invite them to travel all around the country, and even going back to Fontana di Trevi. Now, by the way, now you are charging, which I don't think is much.
Which I think is
good.
Thank you for that. Thank you for
I think
mentioning
it's
that.
good.
Thank you
I
very
think it's
much.
good.
I mean, people attacking us because you have to pay €2
It's okay.
to come and see Fontana di Trevi. The same people that pay, I don't know how much to go up in the Eiffel Tower. So thank you,
No,
Maribel,
or even
for
to
saying
have
that.
a gelato, no? You
Yeah,
pay
yeah,
for
for
something you want
sure.
to see, and I
No,
think it's a way
absolutely.
to contain the flows, to manage, and we need to use the digital and the artificial intelligence to, okay, you are now in Trevi, but I'm going to have something to see before, because in 2 hours I will go there. So you need to use your time, and we have the digital world there to help us, so why not?
By the way, Maribel, thank you for mentioning that, because it's one of my students actually developed something which is very, very interesting. It's like he developed it imagining that he was supposed to manage overcrowding in Petra, Jordan. So it's like a warmth index that tells you, it's like an app that you have that tells you that if you're going in that direction, it's like bright red, it means there's a lot of people. So as she was saying, which I think is very important, technology gives us solutions as well. And we have to encompass them and, bring them into the discourse, because that's definitely going to help us. We need more data, better data than the quantity ones. We have now AI helps me understand data in a completely different way and in a snap of a finger. We have no more excuse. We have to use those data to reach where we want to reach. So I'm very hopeful, because I think we have it all.
So a lightning round to wrap up. Quick questions. So one tourism investment trend you believe that is overrated?
Countries and investment trend?
One tourism investment trend, or tourism trend, let's say, concept, you believe that is overrated?
I'm going to have to repeat myself. I guess it was my starting point, is the way, from where to why, which is actually the title of my next book. But it's like the where is not anymore important.
For me, it's like bringing volume without really targeting what do we want, what client do we want to have in our city, in our country. Let's work for that
Correct.
client. Let's make them, approach them. Volume is a little bit under control, So that is very underrated.
Maybe we talked about this a little bit under certain conversations, but one capability future tourism leaders must develop now.
Empathy. For me.
But that's very interesting, is to be definitely to introduce more awareness in their policies. I always say against myself, there should be less politics, not policy, less politics in tourism. Meaning that I think the healthy relationship between public and private is when public really, Maribel was mentioning, less bureaucracy. I'm adding more to that as like facilitating the private sector to operate at its best, because this is a private sector-led industry. So we have to let it happen, but never lose people out of the way. So the governments, for me, they have an absolute mandate, which is to make sure people are never put aside, they're never neglected, and they're always number one part of the discourse.
And one mistake that a destination must avoid in the next 10 years.
That is very, every day destinations will be doing a lot of mistakes. Even you were talking about routes before, when it comes to connectivity, for example, and sometimes you are not even deciding, because it's not even your fault that you cannot get the slot that you want, because it's not even up to them. It's a question of like order, is this disalignment, is why it's important to have a vision, a strategy, and try to keep it as tight as possible. It's very complicated because a lot of moving pieces and geopolitically speaking difficult, but it's this leadership of, going together to the same direction.
For me, the mistake is that ignoring other people's mistake. Tourism allows us to see everything. We have the chance to see who does it better. We should just humbly say, okay, look, they've done this. This is what happened. It's not that if I do it, it's going to work. Probably I should learn from that and, shift a little bit away. So learning from other people's mistake, I think, is a mandatory must. And if you don't, then you make the same mistake again.
I'm asking, indeed very similar questions that takes us to a common theme as far as, I'm evaluating this last 30, 40 minutes. It's all about people, it's all about purpose, it's all about empathy. I think that's the real growth.
And value.
And value.
And value.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Can I add one more thing?
My pleasure.
This is often referred to as a luxury destination, Turkey, right? You come here, you have some of the best hotels, some of the best gastronomy, some of the best spa experiences. I personally couldn't agree more. The real luxury that we all have at the moment for the life we live is time. So the difference we make is when we give value to the time that the tourist gives us. So time is of essence. And nowadays, I think, Gloria also mentioned it before, a lot of habits have changed. We don't just travel in the summer. We travel throughout the year. Smaller periods, longer periods. Now traveling is becoming more and more accessible, and it's part of our life. So, but every time we travel, we decide to give value to our time. And we do something very personal. Maribel mentioned empathy. We give our time in the hands of somebody else that we don't know. And we say, make the best use of it and give me something fantastic. That's the expectation, no less than that. Expectation that we all have. Even if we planned our own vacation, we still expect that taxi driver to surprise us. We expect that je ne sais quoi, that extra element that really makes time valuable. And this, at the end of the day, is a real luxury.
Thank you. And these are all the questions I have in my pocket. So, I may leave the last remarks to you in the last round.
This was my last. So now the last goes
for
to
me,
Maribel. Thank you very much.
basically the alignment between the public and the private sector is very important. Having a long-term vision, putting the destinations in the center, and of course, don't forget about your inhabitants, citizens. And I think we are living in the best period of our sector's history. And we keep growing, and we need to keep it stronger and passionate about it, and try and attract all this talent, and have prescriptors all around the globe about how good it is to work with us. So this is what I would like to just leave there, convince people to come to us.
So thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you please stay a little bit
more on the stage?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this panel. Thank you for your participation and this inspiring panel once again. Efendim, kendilerine bir kez daha çok teşekkür ediyoruz ve sahneye kendilerine plaketlerini takdim etmek üzere TTYD Yönetim Kurulu üyesi Sayın Şerife Bilgili Ercan Türk'ü davet etmek istiyorum. Hoş geldiniz. Hem yönetim kurulu üyemiz, hem bir ressam, yakında sergi hazırlığında, hem de bir mimar. Yönetim kurulu üyemiz Şerife Bilgili Ercan Türk sahnede ve bu çok kıymetli isimlere, panelistlerimize plaketlerini takdim ediyorlar. Bir kez daha çok teşekkür ediyoruz bu güzel panel için. And the family picture together. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Sağ olunuz.